start to.
I think so.
We haven't been, I don't know if we've been doing a good job at posting the live link lately, but I'll see if I can help with that.
Link is here. We are live, everybody. Today is Thursday, November 19th. This is the weekly developer meeting. We skipped the design meeting today because everybody who was here was really busy. But we had a new release this week, so we're going to go through the dev meeting anyway. Before we get started, let's have everybody here go around and say what your name is and where you're from. And if you want to share something fun with us in 30 seconds or less, you can go ahead and do that. Phil, let's start with you.
Hi, Phil Ward out of Wichita, Kansas. Basically just kind of here to provide feedback where I can, kind of help with some testing where I can, and yeah, see what I can do to kind of help out. Jen?
I'm Jen Lampton. I'm calling from Oakland, California, where it is beautiful and sunny today, which is very exciting because it rained this week, so we started winter. That's it from me. Tim?
Hi, I'm Tim Erickson. I'm coming to you from Deerwood, Minnesota.
Basically just kind of here to provide feedback where I can.
Sorry.
Some testing where
I just opened up the live link as I was talking, and it's got about a 20-second delay, and that very much confused me. Anyways, I'm here from Deerwood, Minnesota. The fun thing I just mentioned before we came on the air, I have bought my first pre-owned non-Mac computer in my life, and have been trying to configure Linux so I can earn some geek cred, I guess. Anyways, it is super fast. That's what I'm liking about it so far. So that's it. And I don't know if Peter wants to introduce himself or not, if he's able to. Nope, it looks like he does.
We'll say hi. So Peter and Sarah here from Australia, just lurking in the background today, but see if I can give an update on my advocate issue later. So.
Great.
All right. So this week we have two new contributed projects, State Override and Markdown Editor for BU Editor. Both came out this week. So that's pretty cool. I've been thinking about putting Markdown Editor on one of my sites, so I might give that a try. This week, I don't know if there's anything else exciting going on in the world of backdropcms.org projects, but we are going to be applying the security update that came out yesterday to all of our properties. And this time we're going to remember the localized site, which is something that's not on our to-do list. And so it is often overlooked. We're going to go ahead and take care of that this time and add it to the list. So I'm excited about that. Does anyone have anything they want to talk about before we move into core issue land?
I think we should acknowledge the work being done on organic groups, because that's exciting. And
oh, yeah.
And a chance if people want to help. I know there have been people waiting for that, and if anybody's really interested in organic groups and wants to help test that, I think it would be really helpful. So
yeah, I looked into that, I don't know, a month ago maybe, and I was like, oh man, this looks like it's going to be a lot of work. I guess I'll just put it on my calendar for like December. And then 2 days ago or whatever, I got the email that was like, this project has been moved to Contrib, and I was like, what? I hadn't paid attention for a month, and then it just appeared.
Right.
So that was really exciting.
I feel like a couple of people have started this in the past, and I hope this effort finally goes through, because I know there's 2 or 3 people already that have helped test, and Laren is doing the hard work, and so thanks to Laren for that.
Yeah, super thanks. I can't wait to jump in. Hopefully I can be helpful too.
I know Tim's kind of been on this topic a little bit. I don't know if you have, Jen, the kind of the idea of the telemetry in the backdrop upgrade status module. Honestly, I don't know if here's a good place to talk about it. I kind of feel like this is kind of a core dev decision that needs to be made on doing that, as opposed to putting it, out in the outreach. It kind of ties into both, if you know what I mean. So I don't know if we want to talk about that a little bit today or wait till next week and discuss it then.
So we have a section at the end of this meeting for initiative updates, and telemetry is on there. I don't know if we're going to get an update from Jeff. I haven't checked the issue queue, but that might be a good time to talk about
Okay, that's
this.
fine.
Tim, did you have something you want to add too?
Well, I'll just say one, I think it's pretty official that I'm kind of the contact on that and not Jeff.
Okay, I'll update the document
Sure.
too.
And number two, just for Phil's sake and anybody else that's listening, we have two sort of official initiatives right now, which are sort of issues, larger issues that we're trying to focus on. And one of them is telemetry. So that's automatically on this agenda every week to talk about it. You know, some weeks there's no real update, so we don't talk much about it. But that is something that we have been talking about on this call already, and we'll get to it on the agenda. That's it.
That has been corrected. He will now officially be addressed for that.
Sure.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
Okay. Let's see. So moving into core this week, yesterday we released Backdrop 1.17.3. That was a security release, co-released with Drupal. We knew it was coming for a couple of weeks. We had a patch in the security queue. We recently set up, this is tangential, but hopefully you guys will see where I'm going with this. We recently set up QA sandboxes on the public issue queue for testing sites using Tugboat, and it's going really well as far as I can hear. That there's also an attempt to try and switch our automated testing over from using ZenCI, which is something that Gore built specifically for us, and it's super fast and really great, to maybe one of these other standard tools. But we've got some concerns around how fast something like that would be, because we know that ZenCI is super fast. But I was thinking, as we were working on the security issue for the last few weeks, that it would be really great to use the security queue as a place to test whatever it is we're working on for automated testing, because number one, things happen over there a lot more slowly. Like most of the activity is in the public queue, and there's only a few issues in the private queue. And so I think if it were slower, that would be fine. We usually visit those issues less quickly anyway. And we wouldn't need to replace what we have with it either. We could try it there in parallel. So anyway, that was just something that came up as we were working on security release. I was like, oh, this could be a good place to test alternative test environments for Backdrop. We can do it safely. Okay, included in 1.17.3 is the same security fix that was in Drupal 7. Plus, we included one fix that was supposed to fix a regression with a CSS change that went into 1.17.2. So I don't think the fix we committed and merged entirely fixed the problem. There's a follow-up issue, and I have a link to it here in the 1.17.4 milestone. It's issue number 4766. But this is a prime example of why we shouldn't change CSS in between major version releases. We run into this a couple of times. This one I don't think is that bad. It will only affect the admin side of things. And so unless you have an admin theme that is an extension of 7, or if you're, you'll see it if you're using 7, but for the most part, it won't affect front end of sites. But anyway, I thought it was interesting that we were going over how do we handle not breaking CSS in core at the same time as we wrote CSS in core, which is like, yeah, we never really know until we release what's going to happen there, just because the number of eyes are on it. So that was all for 1.17.3. I'm going to check. So I haven't checked before this meeting on any of these other issues for 1.17.4, but I expect that most of them are in comparable states they were last week. So this first one is issue number 4745, which is also a regression from 1.17.2 for CiviCRM integration. It looks like we have a pull request here, and it's labeled as needs work. But this is something that happened from us including MySQL 8 support. So I think that, we're going to need to make sure CiviCRM and MySQL 8 work together as well. So I think this is a good thing for us to run into and a great thing for us to try and fix. Next one is missing htaccess rules for PHP 7. And I think we've finally got a consensus on this. Last time in our weekly meeting, someone asked, well, couldn't we just like test for when this problem happened? And Nate said yes. And my mind was blown. And so there's a new pull request there that now will log an error if your site runs into that particular problem rather than failing silently. I think there are some instances where we, like if the submit button is what's removed from the form, it might still fail. But I think we have at least some good tools in there to catch it. The number of use cases that we're running into where people are actually going to get hurt by this are getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So I think we're definitely on the right track here. This issue is marked ready to be committed and hopefully can go into the next release. Let's see, site stuck in maintenance mode. Issue number 3956. This one looks like it still needs code review. Setting a reasonable value for maximum input variables. I think this one, well, this is the one I just talked about. This is still marked as needs work. So I got two issues confused. The max input vars one and the missing htaccess rules for PHP 7 are related because they both involve htaccess rules. But the missing ones for PHP 7 is the one that's RTBC, and the maximum input vars is the one that needs work. But I think we're honing in on a conclusion everyone will like, which is good. Next one, remove block title for search box. This one's been around, I think, since we made the last change to search box. It's issue number 3476. It looks like it's also marked needs work. I'm not sure what work it needs, but I think that one's probably close. Fixing views or behavior. This is a long-standing bug in views.
I was trying to kind of test that one the other day. I think my logic is super fuzzy. I don't know if maybe out there in the original post that maybe we can put an example of what is known to not be working versus what should be working. That way I can kind of reverse engineer to help test that. But yeah, I was kind of playing around and added the patch. I'm like, I really don't see much of a difference here. I'm not sure what's going on. So I know my logic is bad, but I'll be honest, getting into some of those different logics with those filters, I just would have to play with it until I got it right. So I think some of it's just the way my brain is trying to figure it out just isn't working right. So maybe if I've got more of a real world, I can help you guys test on that one.
Yeah. So in the top issue, there's a set of steps to reproduce, but it might be good if we could like attach an actual views export where it'll show you that it's broken, because I know sometimes, you know, that can be a little fuzzy. I wished for that pretty commonly. I'm like, oh, I could just build this view and export it. And that might help people test before and after the patch.
Phil, a great thing to do, a great contribution to an issue like that is if you do, in that situation, if you try it and you're not able to reproduce it, say that and say, you know, ask for better
Sure.
steps to reproduce it. I do that fairly often. It's like, I want to test this, but I'm not quite sure how. And people are usually generally pretty happy to, you know, to help me with that.
Right. I was in the process of doing that, had something written up, and I was like, well, I kind of like to play around with it a little bit more before, you know,
Sure.
trying to ask for help. So noted.
Okay, next issue is removing blacklist and whitelist from core. This issue got fixed since the last time we talked about it and is now back in needs review status. I have a feeling the change we made this week might make that not apply anymore. And so it might need to be rebased, but we can work on that. And then similarly, we wanted to remove master slave terminology from core. This one's currently marked as rework. I also expect that the MySQL 8 support might make the pull request there not work correctly either. So both of those are probably going to need to be looked at again. Next issue is number 3213. This is adding automated code checks in core. I haven't been following along with this one. Looks like there haven't been any updates since August 27th. So I don't know where that one's standing. All right, for ongoing issues with core, there's a couple of issues that are meta issues that will sort of go on forever that have a bunch of changes. One of them is including cross-ports from Drupal 7. So every time a Drupal 7 module that we've put in core has releases, or Drupal 7 core, for example, this week had a release, we like to have an issue of all of those changes that were included in Drupal and make sure they're also included in Backdrop. If you are bored one day and are looking for some work to do, those issues of porting fixes that are already in Drupal into Backdrop are great for filling time. That said, it's also sometimes not a priority because a lot of people in Backdrop aren't necessarily running into those problems yet, but the fact that there are solutions for them really makes me want to get them in also.
Mm-hmm.
So the meta issue for all Drupal 7 cross ports is number, we have a project for that actually, rather than a meta issue for all cross ports. So any one of these issues. So for example, the one for staying on top of contributions to the date module is number 4027. If you were to visit that one, you could see in this sidebar, it's slotted into a project for Drupal 7 cross-ports. And you can find a bunch of stuff over there that we would like to add in if anyone's interested in working on those. And then we have a couple of meta issues for user experience improvements. There's one for flexible templates that's here on this agenda. We also have one for CK editor. So there's just a couple of, there's one for layout system. There's just a couple of collections of issues that could be fun to work through also if you find that sort of thing fun. Let's see. So our next release is going to be Backdrop 1.17.4. We don't have a date scheduled for that yet because we don't have any stuff in it, or urgent stuff done in it. Yes, always fixing bugs. If you find bugs, it can go into, and it gets fixed, it can go into any release. All right, so for 1.18, which has feature freeze on January 1st, we only have a handful of issues assigned.
And I think that's a mistake because we have a bunch of issues. Like, you know, the issue that I'm advocating for is not there.
Okay.
So I think we somehow lost those.
Maybe they weren't in the template. Okay, we can add
right.
them.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm looking at the 1.18 milestone instead of the agenda. It looks like we have exposed file name filter on media library. That would be fantastic. We have, that one is currently marked help wanted. So I think there's some JavaScript trickery that we're doing with the exposed filter form in a modal that we need some help with. So if anyone is a JavaScript expert, that would be a good place to jump in.
Is that Laren's issue?
That's, yes, Laren's issue.
Okay. Yeah, he updated us in the last week's meeting, if anybody wants to look at that video to see exactly where he needs help. But yeah, he's kind of stumped. I think he needs help.
Okay. And then we have, well, let's just, a WebP support. This is something that's been underway for a while. This one doesn't have an, oh wait, it does have an Indigo Xla.
Indigo Zella is how I'm saying it.
Zella? Okay, Indigo Zella is advocating for this one. WebP is an extension that'll help you with image generation. So right now, almost all Backdrop sites use GD, which is a built-in image handling library with PHP. There is a contrib module called ImageMagick that's allowed people to use that. WebP is an extension that will allow GD to generate images in next-gen formats. And so this is one of those things that shows up on your report of problems with your website when you look at it in Google Search Console. I don't remember what it's called. One of those things that analyzes why your site isn't performing well in search results. And the major issue there is with how fast it loads. So if we can get WebP support in core, there are two benefits there. One of them is that the pages load faster. So that'll be good no matter what. And then the other one is that that has a triggering effect that will make backdrops rank more highly in search engine listings because of the pages loading faster. So I'm really excited about this one.
I bring up a thought on that. And this is something I think right now, just getting it to where you can upload the WebP without errors. I think that's the first step. Personally, I think long-term, what we need to do with that is try and set it up with a fallback where you can upload a WebP or a JPEG that converts to a WebP, but you still retain the original JPEG image, and there's a fallback mechanism. I think personally, give or take the next 5 years, just kind of covering a little bit of this backwards compatibility, I think would be good. But that's kind of one of those things I know is going to be difficult to try and implement. I feel like Core, that's something that Core needs to kind of handle in that regard. But I think right now just getting it into Core is definitely the first step on that. So.
Yeah, I mean, we aren't going to put anything in Core that's not backwards compatible until Backdrop 2. So that's 5 years away. So if this does have any issues with backwards compatibility, it'll either be disabled by default, so no one will get it unless they specifically opt in, or it'll be postponed if we can't make that happen. We tried to do that in general,
right?
But sometimes things slip through.
Yeah.
Upgrade UI, I haven't done any work on that in the last few weeks, but it is happening in Contrib, where there's going to be a module that's user interface very closely matches what's happening in Drupal 8. That'll just give you a tool for importing a database into a website into itself. Advanced Drupal caching. This is something that gets me really excited. I don't know if it has an advocate, but Joseph said he was going to work on it.
He's listed as the advocate. Yep.
Okay, there's no advocate on the issue.
So if you look below, I posted the notes from last week's meeting, and it lists him as the advocate.
Okay, he needs to be on the issue in order to be an advocate for it.
Well, I thought he was.
Okay, I'm adding it. Okay. Ta-da. That's fantastic. So this is cache tags, which is something that Drupal 8 has that Backdrop doesn't have, but there's no reason Backdrop couldn't also have it. There's a Drupal 7 module that adds it, and I think that's where we're starting with porting that Drupal 7 module to Backdrop and then seeing what it would look like to integrate it directly in Core, whether it's going to be a module, remain a separate module, or something that just gets smooshed into some other module. I don't know if it has been decided yet. So this issue doesn't have a pull request yet, but it has enthusiasm. So let's see. Add a link token, subtoken for user tokens. So this is merged into 1.8.0, which is fantastic. I don't know if you guys talked about that last week or not, but I find that exciting. New things in 1.8 already.
I think
setting.
Yeah.
What was that?
I was just going to say, I think Gregory's already identified a new issue he's advocating for, but I don't remember what it is.
Okay. Let's see. There's another one in here that we haven't talked about yet, and it's adding setting to menu block for changing the breakpoint. So I haven't looked at that since last week, but I know that it needed review. Has anyone gotten a chance to look at it? I don't know if Peter's still here.
Is this my one?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so yeah, needs review. And also last night, I noticed that Greg had posted a few suggested changes to it. So I'll look up those today. But basically, it just needs people to go look at it, test it, make sure it doesn't break anything, and then report back as to what you find.
Okay. I also had a crazy idea the other day. I don't remember what I was doing, but it was doing something where my brain wasn't busy. And I had this idea about how to add CSS to existing sites without breaking anything. But I want to test it before I write it down anywhere.
Sure.
Like, oh my gosh, that would be so easy to just fix in 2.x, but we'll see. Is there anything else here, Tim, that we
Well,
haven't?
my issues, the full HTML to raw HTML, there's been no update on that. So
Okay.
I think that's all of them.
Okay.
Any idea what happened to issue 4600, which was the basically the admin description, admin label for blocks?
I'm just pulling it up right now. I don't know what happened to it. Let's see. So
Well,
it's currently marked as needs review.
Wasn't that earlier in the agenda already?
That one was for, I think, removing the title from a search block.
Oh, okay.
Last week's agenda, it was talking about, I guess, trying to make the admin and label and description for blocks a little bit more user friendly.
I wonder, is that Gregory's new? Then maybe that's the new one he's doing.
Wasn't sure. Yeah, since it wasn't on the agenda, I wasn't sure if maybe it got yanked out for more review, more discussion before getting put back in, or
No,
what
it's just
happened there,
usually when all the agendas are copied from a template, and sometimes they get copied from the previous agenda instead, and so the template doesn't get updated. So
Gotcha.
based on the fact that we're missing all the 1.8 issues, my guess is that the template is out of date.
Gotcha.
It was not removed intentionally.
Okay.
Well, the other thing is, Phil, is the way this part of the agenda gets made is basically the issues that show up are the ones that have advocates. And if you're not aware of this, you can advocate for an issue. So an advocate doesn't have to solve or fix the issue. They're just sort of helping provide updates.
Gotcha.
And keep the issue up to date, and maybe remind people what needs to be done. So if there's something you want to get on this part of the agenda sort of automatically, you can, and everybody can just advocate for one issue at a time. So if there's an issue that you really want to work on or see progress, and you're willing to at least sort of project manage it, go ahead and identify that, and then that'll help it get on the agenda and get more attention.
I'm honestly debating on whether or not I want to advocate for that one. It's I put out there on Zulip about taking that. Actually, no, I did do it in the issue queue itself. Creating more of an API around that admin interface to where it's extended pretty much to everything, as opposed to, kind of piecemealed in views and piecemealed in blocks, setting it up to where it literally it's just part of core that, you could set those things. So I don't know. I do know that would take a lot more work than just fixing what's in that issue. So I don't know what the general consensus is on trying to expand on that. So
We've done that in a couple of other places too. And usually what happens is we add something entirely new, and then we'll switch a couple of interfaces over from the old way to the new way. But we leave the old way there. And so that way, anyone who's done anything with the old way will still be able to do that. But if someone wants the new, like, cohesive thing, it's there too. I think we did this with like adding new like date formats. When the date format, like HTML stuff, changed, like when you put in dates using your keyboard or whatever, there was an interface change there, and we added a new one that did date and time together, I think. And then we're also working on it with like the display of how a machine name and a label and the description come out, because that same pattern is repeated all over core. And so rather than having a bunch of unique ways we do it, trying to have like one cohesive tool and then switching the places that use it to use the cohesive tool, I think is really useful. So if we can do something similar here where we create a user interface element that can be recycled across lots of interfaces, that's great. But yeah, I think it's hard to change the whole thing. Like right now, we'd have to wait till Backdrop 2, but we can put in like little reusable components. So that's definitely possible. Okay, there's nothing else on the agenda for core issues. So should we move into initiative updates?
Fine with that. Yep.
Tim, yours is first. Telemetry update.
I'm fine with moving into that because it can go pretty quick. I'll repeat pretty much what I've said the last 2 weeks, which is we've got some pull requests that need testing. I think also I don't know that we've actually created an issue for this yet, but we have like an important follow-up issue to prevent contributed modules from using this new API. I don't think we've solved that problem yet, have we? And we'll need to before this goes in. But basically, I don't know that any work has happened in the last 2 weeks, and I'm trying to get to the stage where I have time to just do some testing. If anybody else has time, there are some detailed instructions in the issue on how to test it, but it does require that you set up a local environment. So, and I've actually been trying to get up like a testing environment on a dev server that I could share with other people who wanted to help test it, but I haven't got to that.
Regarding testing, where's the information going? Has anything been set up on that yet, I guess, is what I'm asking.
It goes to itself.
That's right. And you did bring this up, Phil. So let me actually give a little broader summary because you've raised some issues in the last week. So one, we have if you haven't seen it yet, there's an issue and there's also a wiki page, which really kind of in detail lays out what it is we're trying to do with this initiative. The data is currently, the idea for the current pull request is that the data will be pulled into backdropcms.org. It's stored there. And I don't think, another thing that has to happen is we don't really have a display for it yet. Right now, the current PR, I believe, just pulls the data in and stores, and we'll also have to create some sort of visualization or make it expose it. But that could happen later. The other thing is, you talked about like additional data we could collect, and we have a whole list of like possible things we might collect in the future. But what we've decided so far is that phase one is just, I think 3 things we're collecting is the MVP. And that's what we're trying to get to now, where it collects the user's operating system, I think, or the server, like the version of PHP they're using, and one other thing I forget off the top of my head.
The SQL database.
That could be. And that's the MVP. And once we've got that working, then we'll have a discussion about what else to include. And I don't, again, there's been a lot of discussion about the kinds of things we want to include in the future, but I don't know that any firm decisions have been made. So,
right, yeah, and that makes sense. I mean, regarding the backdrop update status, I keep getting that's kind of a mouthful for me. No, I agree. I think the back end needs to be set up and implemented for the telemetry first. So, getting a place where the data can go to and it can be aggregated and read in a human friendly form. That's definitely going to have to take place first. So we'll kind of put that on the back burner for that module. So that particular module, I mean, it's separate. It kind of ties into the overall telemetry, but to a certain degree, it is kind of off in its own little world. So, I mean, the information that's being pulled from that, me personally, it could live in its own little world. It doesn't necessarily have to be a part of the telemetry initiative. So,
I may have missed the final point you were making. I will say that there has been discussion about like where this data is stored, and we talked about like storing it externally. I think right now the idea is we're trying to keep things simple, and so that's why the decision has been made. But again, that can change in the future.
Right.
Yeah. And you brought up something like this week or in the last 10 days the idea of like storing error messages that people are getting on a
Right.
voluntary basis. I don't know that that's something we had talked about before. It's something we can talk about moving forward, but I think we're not adding anything to the MVP just yet until I
Sure.
first get that working, and then we'll, we can talk more serious. I mean, we can have that discussion now. It's just, it won't be part of the MVP.
Okay.
Um,
I guess as far as testing goes, I mean, if there's a place where on the backdrop side, if there's a place where, we can kind of log in and be able to see one-to-one data as far as that's being pulled in, that, hey, I just sent this,
Right.
Sent this over. Did it show up? Is that piece of it working? And kind of build up from there. That might be something to think about. So, okay.
well, I just haven't had time, but my goal is to test it myself first, and then I can give people. Until I've actually tried it, I don't really know what to tell other people in terms of how that testing is going to go. I know that Nate put some pretty detailed instructions on how to set up a testing environment. If you're able to do that and want to get ahead of me, that would be great. Otherwise, it's like high on my list of things to do. I've just been overwhelmed the last couple of weeks.
Okay. Yeah, I'll take a look at it.
Okay. I think that's it on telemetry, Jen. Oh, are you there, Jen?
Oh yeah, sorry. Do we want to kick it over to Luke?
I don't know. Should we vote?
Yeah, that's right. Well,
Who wants to hear from Luke?
I was thinking that by showing up 45 minutes late, I would, presumably have missed the initiatives part of the meeting.
We put it at the end of the agenda.
Yeah.
Nice try.
Yeah. All right. So I got squat, but look, I've been at this stage of being like a few hours work from MVP for like a long time, and things kicked up in the last couple of weeks, but I've got time now. So actually today, tomorrow, Tim, why don't I help you with your thing, and kind of simultaneous to that, we can figure out how to bring this to bed. I know the things that I want to do to get to like the first step. It's all pretty simple. So let's just figure out how to present it.
Okay.
And that's it for the Ready to Wear initiative.
Okay. So I don't think we're starting documentation yet, since it is still pre-Thanksgiving. But there is a bunch of interest in that coming soon. So that's it for the agenda.
Okay.
Is there anything not on the agenda anyone wants to add?
No, but can we stay on for a minute after the meeting
Sure.
for a quick check-in? Okay.
Okay.